Ladies and gentlemen, we are appropriately going to start with the Marine Corps hymn. Chapman, and as a chaplain, it's my honor to assist Lynn Metzger, Ralph's loving wife of 60 years, and their children, Angela, Michelle, Robert, Matthew, Nicholas, Brian, and John, as well as their spouses, children, and grandchildren. And this will be a meaningful service for Ralph Dean Metzger. And the family, especially Lynn, are very grateful for the loving support that you've provided her and the rest of the family, as well as each other. It was less than 1 month ago that Ralph peacefully stepped from this world into eternity. Because Ralph had faith in God as a Catholic believer in Jesus, I believe he has a new home in heaven. Ralph's family is planning a celebration of his life later. Today, the memorial service is going to honor his life and his love. And there is much to remember. While his career achievements are outstanding, far more important are the loving relationships with family and friends. The only things that we can take with us into eternity are loving relationships and acts of loving kindness, and in those Ralph abounded. Psalm 116 verse 15 tells us that the Lord cares deeply when his loved ones die, and God loves Ralph as well as each one of us. Amazingly, God can share your grief at Ralph's passing at the very same time Ralph is at God's side in heaven, bringing him joy. Please bow your heads as we open in prayer. Heavenly Father, thank you for Ralph's life and the life that he and Lynn provided for their children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. Thank you for the love and joy Ralph shared with his loving wife, Lynn, his family, and their friends. Father, help us to remember the good times with Ralph and to share them with each other today, tomorrow, and into the future. Please guide us in seeking you for comfort, and so that we can be reunited with Ralph one day in your magnificent eternal kingdom. In Jesus' name we pray, amen. Now, in a short while, there's going to be an opportunity. There will be some speakers, and then this microphone will open up for anyone. You will need to come up here because this service is being live streamed, so if you talked from the back, the microphone wouldn't pick it up and it would just be blank on the live stream. So also I want those out there watching by live stream to realize that recorded music portions of the service will be muted so as to not knock down the live stream. So if you notice the sound disappears, that's probably because recorded music is being played, and it will come back as soon as that is done. Matthew Metzger will be bringing us the eulogy.
Morning, everybody, and thanks for coming out bright and early. First and foremost, thank you to all the kind words, condolences, thoughts, prayers extended to our family in this time of aggressive change and pain. It's always comforting to know that those around us empathize and extend concern, love, and care. Today we take time to celebrate and recognize the life of Ralph Dean Metzger, a leader, mentor, Marine, son, brother, grandfather, great-grandfather, father, and loving husband. For those of you who knew my father for varying periods of time, I want to take a little bit of time to share a little more about him. If you read my brother Nick's well-written obituary, some of this is accounted for already, and congratulations, you know some of the story. He was born in Fort Wayne, but raised in Indianapolis, Indiana, to two German parents, Beatrice and Cletus. A brother to 9 siblings. He was one of 2 middle children, 5 of which are still with us. Indiana was his home for 18 years before he joined the Marines. He was an expert marksman and ultimately earned the rank of corporal in his last 4-year tenure. Once he finished his commitment to the Marines and his country, he met and married our mother. And his dear wife, Doreen Lynn Lidicay, or Lynn to all of you, they remained married for 60 wonderful years. I'll get back to family in a moment, of course, because it's most important, but just to briefly talk about his professional career, he pursued a long life in finance as his career choice, starting off as an auditor for the FDIC and ultimately became president of a local independent bank in Roseville in around 1983. Times changed and he made a new path in Santa Rosa, working for West America Bank, where he eventually retired. He was avid as a community leader in different parts of his journey, with participation in Knights of Columbus and more recently in Rotary, for which he served in different capacities for many years. Personally, our father loved 3 things very much. Well, 4. His family, of course, Kauai, his yard and garden, and sports. Kauai allowed Pop to really relax and relish in his retirement. He loved going with his children and grandchildren to experience the beauty and spend time with our mom. He loved the island and all its beautiful flora, fauna, weather, and beaches. His green thumb was also a great joy for him. He spent time tending to his fruit trees, lawns, and garden. Lost my place, sorry. Reflecting his fatherly care. He spent a lot of time in this outdoor space, as did his family, with patience, persistence, and attention all rolled into one. It was a time for peace and calmness, and what I like to believe. You could see him take it in as if you watched him work or relax in a chair and bask at the view. Sports has been with him forever. Always a fan of Indiana teams. He was still true to where he lived. He followed the Sacramento Kings, A's, Giants, occasionally golf. As a father, he went to so many games for us and enjoyed all of our time as we played sports. It seemed at times when we were younger that he filled his whole weekend with our sporting events. When we were younger, my apologies. He truly enjoyed watching us compete and exercise as we improved year over year. He was able to enjoy his passion for sports and support his children at the same time. Now going back to family, Pop was a loving father to 7 children. As you can expect, the number providing trying times, hectic schedules, but always an opportunity to see someone succeed and flourish. Our parents encouraged us to participate in extracurricular activities and somehow always found a way to get us there on time and manage the different needs for all of us. The tree extends further. He was a grandfather to 15 and a great-grandfather to 6. That's quite a tree to speak of. He loved all of us very much, and despite his mild demeanor, he showed so much love for each and every leaf on that tree. He himself was raised in a large family and truly understand the dynamic well. His faith taught him to love and provide for those around him. Our father raised us in a religious household which gave us a strong moral compass and taught us love and compassion. Many of us went to parochial school, which provided a strong education, but probably made many of us a little rebellious too. Overall, a win in my book for the family. He did his best to instill a strong work ethic and teach us the importance of family, finance, scholastics, and health. A story to share with each of you. A little bit about his work ethic. It still lives with me very much to this day. While we lived in Auburn, which is not far from here for those that aren't from the area, we experienced a pretty large snowstorm where it reached lower elevations. Auburn isn't known to get a lot of snow occasionally. It was somewhere in the neighborhood of 1 to 2 feet, if I recall. Nonetheless, it was a significant weather event. We had a driveway that was something like 18-20% grade. It was a very steep driveway. We were given a snow day for school because it was difficult to get to school as a result of the weather event. Well, not to my pop. He spent probably 45 minutes shoveling 2 paths for the tires on his car because he was headed in. We asked him what he was doing. He stated, going to work. We asked why. Just take the day off like us. That wasn't going to happen. He was determined to go to work and somehow made it up that driveway and was headed in until he wasn't. About 20 to 30 minutes later, he showed up and was only able to go about as far as the public roads and learned that Mother Nature wins. That's just a simple story that spoke to me and really speaks to his character as a leader and a father. Before I finish, I just want to share some quick anecdotes that also stick out to me. Something he said to me more than once is that you won't know if you don't try, and that was a couple times in my life. And Nick will enjoy this one. He said to us once or twice, and nothing good happens or comes from the bar after midnight. Pop, we love you. We're going to miss you, and we appreciate all that you've done for us, and you raised all of us, along with Mom, with great character and love, and we'll miss you.
Thank you, Matthew. That was great. Please watch this slideshow. At this time, Angela Savage and Christine Fairchild Savage will come up and share with us.
I think everybody knows me. I'm Angela, Dad's oldest child, and this is my daughter Christine, his oldest grandchild. I'm going to try and talk to you about my dad and share some of my memories. I loved my father very much. He had a great deal and has had a great deal of influence on who I am today. Dad was sometimes strict and had very high expectations for his children. He had a strong sense of family, which he instilled in me. We always sat down together at dinner time, but dinner had to have a protein, a starch, and a vegetable. He was very strict about that. But he did love his desserts, especially ice cream. One of his favorites, which I don't know why, I just remember this, is daiquiri ice from Baskin Robbins. And mincemeat pie. He loved mincemeat pie at Thanksgiving. I always had to have mincemeat pie during Thanksgiving. So I would always want to have some mincemeat pie so I could be a part of his weird food thing. Dad wasn't just a family man. He enjoyed doing lots of things with neighborhood friends as well. Most of my brothers and sister don't remember this. It was when we were younger. He No, he doesn't want to stay with Grandma. I have memories in Citrus Heights of a neighborhood luau. They would do a pig roast, and they literally took a whole pig and put this pig in the ground with leaves. I have memories of my dad in his Hawaiian shirt with a great big smile on his face, having the time of his life with all the kids around in the neighborhood, just running around the streets. We just ran around back and forth. Nobody was paying any attention. Mom and Dad also played cards with their good friends Don and Carol. They lived across the street, and I would babysit while they would go. I wasn't babysitting, but you know. They would go and play cards and listen to music. This was the first time that I heard Neil Diamond, or that I remember hearing Neil Diamond. They played that, and Olivia Newton-John, and Seals and Croft. He and my mom definitely are the root of my personal love of Neil Diamond music. Dad wasn't much of a big talker, but when he did say something to me, it had a huge impact. I knew that the words, "I'm disappointed in you," could make me cringe and cry. I always thought long and hard about what I had done and how I could make it up to him. I always just wanted him to be proud of me because I respected him so much. Although he was a man of few words, he had a great sense of humor. I would be sitting with him and other members of the family. I think all of you have some experience like this. And he would just be sitting there in his chair or out on the patio, not seemingly participating at all in the conversation. And then he would whip out some one sentence zinger, and everybody would just look at him, and it would just be hilarious. Dad also loved babies. I remember when my daughter Christine was born, we lived close to the bank where he worked in Roseville, and he would sneak over from his bank at lunchtime. I'd bundle her up in a blanket and hand her over to him. Then he would take her outside, saying, "Babies need sunshine. We need to get her out in the sun." It didn't matter how cold it was. She was born in February. And then he would proceed to talk to her. I have no idea what he spent so much time saying to her, but he was always happy when he left. As many of you know, and Matthew spoke to it, Dad and my mom loved Hawaii. And it was very important that they bring their family over, as many as who could and who could get there and take time off. but each visit was special in its own way. However, Dad had certain traditions that he and Mom insisted on. The first stop after landing in Hawaii, those of you who've been, tell me if I'm wrong, we always had to stop at Duke's so Dad could have a Mai Tai. We also had to barbecue at least once while we were there, and we were all treated to a sunset dinner at the beach house where we took pictures. One year, when all three of my children were able to come with us, we all got matching, hideous, quite frankly, but they were all matching Hawaiian dresses and shirts for a picture. At the end of the week vacation, the last tradition was to eat breakfast at the restaurant on the golf course. I think that Hawaii was one of the places that made my dad the happiest and most relaxed. The other times that you could see my dad as happiest was when he was around any member of his family. He loved his children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren very much. Dad lit up when he was around any of us. When he started becoming confused, it seemed to lift when his family was present. Dad, I believe, chose when to leave us. He recognized each one of his family members as they came to see him towards the end. Several of us were there when he passed, and after it was over, I went outside and looked up. When I looked up into the sky, I saw a shooting star. And I just know and like to think that that was my dad telling us all that we were going to be okay and that he was fine. And we will be okay. We will have an empty place in our hearts for some time, but we need to keep it filled with all the good memories that we can all remember from him.
That was beautiful, Mom. Good morning, everyone. I'm Christine, Angela and Stephen's daughter, and I was the first person who had the privilege of calling Ralph Grandpa. Grandpa had a strength about him, not just in his presence, but in his energy. His words carried weight, his silence carried wisdom, and his love carried us all in ways that we may not have fully realized until now. He was a man of steadiness, of quiet conviction, and yet when he spoke, we listened. I can count on one hand the number of times I ever heard Grandpa raise his voice. Actually, I can count on one finger. It was one unforgettable night when he and Grandma came to stay with us in Granite Bay while my mom and dad were away for a night. My brother Michael and I got into one of those epic sibling fights. And while a kid desk chair may or may not have become airborne, let's just say Grandpa was not having it. In that moment, he reminded us that some things were worth raising your voice for, and apparently flying furniture is one of them. But mostly, Grandpa's voice was not loud. It was strong, and it was potent. It was the voice that told stories, that shared wisdom, and hummed along to a song that he loved. Grandma and Grandpa loved music, along with my parents, and I will always smile remembering that Grandma and Grandpa gave me my first concert tickets to see the Backstreet Boys. Sorry about that, Mom. More than anything, Grandpa understood the power of family. He built something rare, something beautiful, an unshakable foundation of love, connection, and a place that every single one of us belonged to. In these past months, I have had the incredible gift of living in the same town as my grandpa. Time that might have otherwise slipped through my fingers have now become moments that I will hold on to forever. My children have been able to play in his yard in Vacaville just before they moved, touch the flowers that he cared for, and felt the same love for the garden that he did. They know that Papa is in heaven, but more importantly, they know that he lives in their hearts. And that is the beauty of a life well lived. that it never truly leaves us. Grandpa was a man of depth yet simplicity, of quiet strength and unwavering love. And though today we grieve, we also celebrate and carry forward his legacy, not just in memory, but in the way we love, the way we listen, the way we choose strength over weakness. His presence is in the music we share, the gardens we tend, the laughter that echoes in our homes, the ketchup we might eat at a meal, or strawberry rhubarb pie that might be had at Thanksgiving. And maybe in the moments when we are quiet, we will still hear his voice, steady and sure, reminding us of all that truly matters, which is each other. Rest well, Grandpa. You are deeply loved. Thank you.
That was very touching. Thank you. Steve Savage.
Thank you. Well, that's pretty hard to take after you guys did a wonderful job, because I feel like I know everything, which I kind of do, because I've been lucky enough to be the son-in-law, the only one. So, and I basically took away his first daughter. But what was kind of cool about that is I got to know the family really well before we got married. And I was accepted so well that when I finally went to ask for Angela to be my wife, it was an easy thing for me to have done. He was a wonderful, wonderful person, and I'm really lucky to be able to have been a part of his life. I've been married to Angela now for 40 years, and it's been a real wonderful 40 years. But when we first got married, we were kind of struggling, and I was starting my own business. And at the time, he was the president of a bank and had no right really whatsoever at all, but did sign for me to be able to take out my first business loan, which at the time was quite a bit of money for me. And I was honored that he was able to do that. And I paid it back rather quickly because I didn't want to have anything like that go on. But what's kind of neat too is being the only son-in-law, I'm that. But when I got involved in the family, I felt like I was one of the brothers and one of the sons. And he treated me that way always. The other thing I had the privilege of being was his friend. And we had wonderful talks all the time. And maybe a few, not so wonderful talks every now and again. But nevertheless, we were able to share our thoughts and feelings, and it was deep throughout my entire life with him. I'm getting kind of lost here a little bit too. So, anyways, we had wonderful meals together. We had some not so good. We've had really wonderful drinks together, maybe some not so good. But we enjoyed all of our family time, and he was all about family. And I was trying to be all about family as well. So we would have family parties. He was always wonderful to be at. We had the Hawaii thing when we went to Kauai and had all of our road trips. And he and I used to go off and just sit and talk and have wonderful talks. And I was really proud to be his son and a brother to all of you guys. I really, really enjoyed it. I enjoyed being a part of this family, and I love him from the bottom of my heart, and I am a very lucky man to have been able to be part of their family. and I'm going to miss him more than anything that anybody else could ever imagine because he's that special. And I just want to say goodbye. And I love you, Grandpa. Thank you.
That was fantastic, Steve. Thank you. James Metzger.
Well, this is hard. Such a life well lived. Steve and I were talking earlier. What would I say about my brother? You know, I was packing for the trip the other day, and a scene from that great old movie, A Big Chill, came to mind, and they were getting together, gathering for someone they've lost. They had not seen for a while, but never out of their hearts. That great music, Marvin Gaye song, heard it through the grapevine coming over word for word coming over. I didn't need to turn it on. So what would I say about my brother Ralph and this wonderful family that I was blessed to have been part of? You know, there were 5 boys in our family. 5 boys. Now, Steve, you messed this up. I had this parallel going. 5 boys in your family. I always thought that was wonderful. Now 6, but that's fine. Great to have you, Steve. You know that. But it brought back some memories of those days, and I'm sure, Lynn, you had this feeling too. There were so many kids in the house, sometimes you didn't know what was going on. I remember my mother sometimes shouting out, Fred, Ralph, Bob, Mike, Jim. Oh, you, take this towel and dry these dishes. Yeah. She finally got to me. You couldn't stop it. One thing I remembered about Ralph immediately was that eulogy that he gave for our father, who died so many years ago. Gosh, it's hard to imagine, 30-some years. It was a wonderful eulogy, and I had to follow it. Here I am today, following some wonderful memories that have been brought up for you all. I'm retired now, but in my work, I did a lot of teaching and public speaking over the years, and really, I thought I was pretty good at it. But, you know, twice my big brothers did me in, showed me up. One of them was Ralph, that eulogy. One of them was my brother Mike, whom, you know, we lost just a few months ago. At the 50th wedding anniversary of my parents, I prepared some remarks. I thought they were pretty good. I thought, hey, this is going to be really good. I got everybody included here. And after I finished, Mike got up, and he had just gone through a divorce. It was hard. It wasn't of his choice. And he spoke about the love and support that Mom and Dad gave him during that hard, hard time. And I thought to myself, why did I bother saying anything? It was so touching, so heartfelt. And then back to Ralph and that eulogy for Dad. I mean, goodness, it was wonderful. I remember he finished up by saying, so long, Dad. We will miss you. And I remember getting up after that and saying, I have to follow this, Ralph? I mean, but when I thought about Ralph's life, thinking about those 2 episodes, the thing that was remarkable to me was the strength of character. And Christine mentioned this, the strength of character that Ralph had. It was a strong character that had a kind and a steady and a loving hand. If maybe sometimes a little overboard, if you know what I mean. You talk to some of his Marine buddies about his experience in Okinawa, and you would know that. Ironically, one of my tennis partners in Little Rock turns out to have been in Okinawa with Ralph. I know, it was unbelievable when we found that out. He brought his papers and showed me. We couldn't believe it. Same time, same location, so many miles different. But growing up for me, Ralph showed me how to be a good, compassionate person by his example, the way he lived his life. He was always there for us, as I'm sure his daughters know. He showed us how to be a good man as I'm sure that his sons know. And since Ralph's final days, I keep coming back to a prayer that I'm sure many of you know, and it just speaks to me so poignantly today. It's the one about footprints in the sand, and I'm sure some of you know the prayer. One night I dreamed I was walking along the beach with the Lord. Many scenes in my life flashed across the sky. In each scene, I noticed footprints in the sand. Sometimes there were 2 sets, sometimes there was only one. This bothered me because I noticed that during the low periods of my life, when I was suffering from anguish, sorrow, or defeat, I could see only one set of footprints. So I said to the Lord, hey, you promised me, Lord, that if I followed you, you would walk with me always. But I noticed that during the most trying periods of my life, there is only one set of prints in the sand. Why, when I needed you most, have you abandoned me? The Lord replied, my child, I love you and would never leave you. The times when you have seen only one set of footprints are the times that I carried you. Boy, when I think about Ralph and the way that he was always there, that's how I remember him. We must say goodbye to a great man who was a great brother to me. He was a great father to Lynn, father, grandfather, great-grandfather to the kids, and a friend to many of you who are here. So I must say, I guess, so long, brother. We will miss you. He's gone to his glory, and he's gone from us on earth. But I think he's always going to be with us in spirit. Love you, brother.
Thank you, James. Okay, I promised earlier there would be an opportunity for any of you to share a few remarks or encourage the family. All you need to do is stand up and come up here. And don't rush me all at once. And when you get here, please state your name.
Jim. My name's Dan Hagan, and I went to grade school and high school with Ralph, starting out in a neighborhood that was primarily a combination of German and Irish and an occasional Italian. And I remember one time we were in grade school, and Ralph was standing next to me, and the nun lined us up for PE. Well, PE at St. Philip Neri grade school was non-existent. It was called recess, okay? And she lined us up and matched us up by size, and Ralph was standing next to me, and Jack Moriarty was over here, and ended up, Jack and I were the ones that matched the closest in height, and Ralph, I forget who his partner was. But what the nun would do, she'd take a stopwatch out, and you boxed for 1 minute. She had boxing gloves, and she had the girls hold the rope. And of course, you wanted to win because all the girls were watching you, okay? The other thing, Ralph was very popular among the girls. They really liked him. Kay Haley in particular, I remember saying, oh, he is so handsome. We also went to high school at Cecina High School. And I remember we went both out for the basketball team. And I got cut the first day, and Ralph made the team. And I was jealous, and I told him that. In grade school, we played football together at CYO football. And I have a picture of that somewhere, and one of these days, if I find it, I will send it to you, Lynn, okay? In high school, it was a great place. We went to the first Catholic co-ed high school in the state of Indiana, and our graduating class had 230 members. And I remember very distinct and fun times. And then I lost contact, and approximately 10 years ago, we had this booklet with the alumni and the names, and I noticed that Ralph was living in Vacaville, and I was living down in Moraga. And so as a result, we gave Ralph a call, and we began meeting and having lunch a couple times a year at each other's houses. And Lynn was so gracious, meeting my wife, Shirley, and unfortunately she's ill today and couldn't make it. But Lynn, you were fantastic. And what impressed me about Ralph was his gardening, and I had no clue that this guy could garden, okay? And he was so proficient at it, and it was just really impressive. And Ralph, you're a winner. Thank you.
Okay, who's going to be next? All you got to do is stand up and come up here. One more? Here we go. We have two.
My name is Nick. I am Ralph's third youngest son, right in the middle of the boys. And I think any of my siblings who are here can attest, I was probably the hellion of the bunch. Didn't know when to shut up, always stayed in it, but since Dad passed, I've been trying to find ways to experience the good memories, and were there any bad memories? And I can't attest to any bad memories. I think all the memories that would be considered bad with my father, or at least with he and I, were more teaching lessons. Angela touched on it, that the threat or the feeling of disappointing my father, still to this day, I think it's a large part of what drives me, is that I've never wanted to disappoint my parents, but specifically my dad. Two things come to mind, environment and culture. The environment with which we lived in was the way that I saw life. I tried to see it through a positive lens, but when I was younger, I wasn't much for a positive guy. And then culture, and the culture that he provided for us was how we get down every day, the things that we do. It's the identity, it's behaviors, it's habits. These are all things that will most certainly stay with me over the good and bad memories that I've had. Everything comes back to him. He is the standard with which I believe every man should carry himself. Agree or disagree, I just have never known any better than my dad. And everything comes back to him. The love that I received from him basically has always told me that I made him proud. And that's the only thing I've ever wanted to do. And until a couple days ago, I didn't know how to process any of this. I feel like stoic is the best way to describe it, and that's kind of how I would remember Dad, is stoic. But it's always the little things. One instance or particular memory that comes to mind that I believe is why I never had bad memories, just teaching moments, was, and I think John may or may not remember this. So I got a can of paint out, and somehow either I didn't put the cap back on or John got into it. I still don't know to this day. But somehow, all the way around the side of the house, the cat found the open paint. I don't know how the cat made it as far as it did back to the garage, but it went through a hole that was in the window and landed on his Cadillac, or it might have been the Pontiac at the time. So that was not a happy moment, at least at that moment. He was furious, and the look that I got from him scared the living daylights out of me. However, I screamed in dismay, "Why is this my fault? Why is this my fault? I didn't make the cat go through the paint. I didn't make the cat jump through the window." And he took a moment and said, "You kicked the soccer ball that blew the hole in the window. You got the paint out that the cat got into, and the cat went through the hole that you made in the window." So after having it explained to me, I understood that, yeah, okay, this is something I'll never do. I don't know how many windows we broke with balls playing, but some of the greatest memories of my life growing up in Auburn were, of course, with my brothers and sisters, who I love all of you guys very, very much. And if there's anything that any of you ever need, please, I love talking to you guys. Mom, you are now the de facto tribal leader. And we'll follow you anywhere you go, and we will always pick you up and support you and guide you, just like you and Dad did for us. So with that being said, I love you, Dad. I miss you, and I'll see you someday soon.
Thank you, Nick.
I'm Mitchell, or Michelle, right? I have nothing prepared at all, but I did just want to say, after Uncle Jimmy's footsteps in the sand, I just wanted to quickly say that that was my dad. In particular, I went through a nasty divorce, and he carried me. He was there for me when I needed him in all ways possible, along with Mom, of course. And the raising of Aubriella has been, without Dad and without Mom and others, would not have been possible. But that is what he was. He was there for you when you needed him, and he would drop anything at all for you if you needed it. And that's what he told me one time when I was buying a car. I didn't think I had the money, and the dealer said to him, "Well, what about your dad?" or something along those lines. And I was like, no, because that was not the deal. He wasn't going to help pay for anything. He was just going to be the muscle. And he said, "I would do anything for my kids whenever they need it." And that comes to mind through the years. And I can't tell you how much that's him. He carried his family. And I'm going to miss him very, very much. So I'm glad that he's out of pain and where he's at now, where he's at peace. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Anyone else?
I wasn't sure I was going to get up and speak today because it was really hard. I didn't want to stand up here and be emotional because I knew my dad would probably think I was a wimp or something if I got upset. I find it ironic that I'm standing up here in a suit today because it's not really who I am, but it was my dad. He was like that. He enjoyed dressing up in a suit, and I think that suit symbolized to him the pride that he had in being able to provide for such a big family, and one that was often growing. Dad was a sucker for babies. He held babies more naturally than any man I've ever known. It was crazy seeing the pictures of him holding all of the grandchildren and the great-grandchildren. It was really sweet for me to see that. He was a really committed father who didn't quit just because the baby smell wore off. He showed up for us, and he and Mom always came to our school plays, our sporting events, or any other time we needed someone to make us feel like we could do it. It wasn't just the fun moments that you felt that support either. When things went sideways, and things went sideways for us often, you didn't think anyone could possibly forgive you for the crazy things you'd done. And they'd open their home back up and their hearts to any one of us without question. Well, sometimes there was a question or two, but my dad was a great role model for us. He would do things all the time that I would really wonder, I remember a time where we were driving some neighbors nuts playing basketball, and there was a neighbor who was shouting things at him and asking him to come fight him, and my dad just said, "Come on, son, let's go." And I thought, my dad is a tough guy. He can take this guy right now. And I said, "Dad, you gonna let this guy talk to you that way?" And he's like, "Come on, let's go. We're going home." And that always stuck with me. It kind of blew my mind that my dad didn't take this guy out, which I had every reason to believe he would, and he didn't. And that was just one of those things that my dad kind of taught me, and it was a really special thing when he did it. And of course, you've heard about his great sense of humor, and I don't know how this is going to fly, but so we were all sitting around the kitchen table. We just gotten done eating, and there were always things, toys, paints lying around, boxes of stuff, and we were all sitting around, and my dad said, "Did you guys know I know German?" And we said, "Well, no." And Dad kind of took a lot of pride in his heritage, having German background, and he's like, "Husten, husten," and he says something in German, and everyone's like, "Wow, Dad, that was impressive. Like, you really took that seriously. I mean, you even know German." Everyone's like looking around at each other, and he goes, "I just read it off the box over there on the paints." And everyone was like, "Man, you just punked us really hard, Dad." We were really proud of you. Anyway, I think the things that are going to be really hard for me are the things that I do all the time. And just getting dressed today was pretty tough because, little things like, putting a dress shirt on and, lining everything up. And those are the things Dad showed us how to do. And I think about him with every step I take and every move I make. And I want to say I'm going to miss him, but I feel like he's with me all the time, and he always will be. And I love him very much, and I really appreciate everybody coming today to be here for him. I love you, Dad.
Thank you. Anyone else? Last call. Pardon me. All right.
My name is Brian. I am the second to the last son, and I wasn't planning on coming up and speaking today, but I felt it necessary. Reflecting on my brother Bob, it was a tough morning to get up and get out. It really was. I was not looking forward to having to deal with today, but out of respect for my dad, I felt that important. This will be short, but one thing I like to say about my dad is his quiet strength. He was a very strong man, and he didn't have to say much for you to realize that about him. And another thing about my dad was his patience. He had an extreme amount of patience, and I remember trying to explain things to him sometime, whether it be this or that, and just going, "You just don't understand what I'm trying to say," you know? And after reflection, he knew all along what I was trying to say because he was so wise and he had all this experience, and you didn't have to, I never had to go so deep into my thoughts as to what I was trying to get across. He already knew. And Dad, you will be missed. I love you very much, and thank you for being there always, and we all love you very much. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, please listen to this beautiful music. It's called Deep in an Ancient Hawaiian Forest by Makana. Although everyone grieves differently, the passing of your family's patriarch is clearly heartrending, and it's been a great loss for all of your lives. When you toss a pebble into a pool of water, it causes ripples, and you see these. They reach out shore to shore, and then they bounce back and start interacting in beautiful patterns. Long after that pebble disappears, the ripples continue. And in much the same way, the legacy of Ralph's personality is going to live on among you as you fondly share his memory. And we've already seen that here today as you shared so many wonderful stories. Those ripples are already interacting, and they're going to carry you along. Please continue to share by reaching out to those that were unable to attend, those that might be watching by live stream, and share your treasured memories of Ralph. I know there's a lot more, whether he was as your husband, your dad, your grandpa, or your friend. You know he loved you in the way that he impacted all of your lives. Love and relationships with God and others are the only things that we can carry with us into heaven. And love is central to God's character. So ask for God's help in putting love first, and try to keep it there ahead of the busyness that constantly tries to distract us in everyday life. The Apostle Paul reminds us in 2 Corinthians 4:17 and 18, "For our present troubles are very small and won't last for very long, yet they produce for us a glory that vastly outweighs them and will last forever." So we don't look at the troubles we can see now. Rather, we fix our gaze on things that cannot be seen. For the things we see now will soon be gone, but the things we cannot see will last forever. Ralph is now completely at peace. He's in heaven. He's at God's side. He's been reunited with his parents and other family and friends who've preceded him into glory. He's cheering you on, and he's patiently waiting and hoping that you're going to join him in heaven one day. Will you be ready? We're going to close with our Lord's Prayer, and if you want, you can join me. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Lynn, the rest of Ralph's family, they want you to continue to celebrate with them today. We're going to be leaving here in a few minutes. We're going to be going down to Sacramento Valley National Cemetery. There will be United States Marine Corps Honor Guard will render honors. And then after that, very brief service there at Sacramento Valley. You can just follow us along, or you can find it on your mobile device. After that, they're going to be going to Bud's Pub and Grill, 100 South 1st Street in Dixon, and the family hopes that you all join them there. There'll be good food, fellowship, and more opportunities to share those wonderful stories of Ralph. So at this time, I'm going to need to have the pallbearers come, and we will start to make the preparations to leave for Sacramento Valley National Cemetery.